Ms. Mills, Renee Mills, we'd like to hear from you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mills. Can you state your name, where you're from, or excuse me, where you live, and what you do?
Well, my name is Renee Mills, and I live in Charleston County, but I work for a statewide nonprofit agency, which is, of course, statewide. So we're in 36 counties, named Family Corps, also known as Parents Anonymous of South Carolina.
Thank you very much for being here today. Would you like to provide testimony under oath?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you solemnly swear that all the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do you understand this subcommittee cannot intervene or provide resolution in any constituent's ongoing matter with the agency, family court, or any judicial entity?
Yes.
Do you understand that representatives from DSS are present with us today, and should any of your testimony cause them reason to believe that a child or vulnerable adult's physical health, mental health, or welfare has been or may be adversely affected by abuse and neglect, we've instructed DSS to consider that testimony a referral from this committee of such conditions so that DSS may consider it pursuant to state law as they do other reports of abuse or neglect.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any remarks in writing that you'd like to provide us at this time or afterwards?
I'm going to send it afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much. And you understand at 7 minutes, I will give you a 3-minute warning, so to speak, and then at 10 minutes, I'll politely ask you to wrap it up as best you can.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, we look forward to hearing from you. Please share what you can.
So Family Corps is a statewide nonprofit organization. We're also the state vendor and provider of services for Department of Social Services, and we provide the parenting, education, and mutual support piece. We are in 36 counties, and our mutual support and parenting education is much different than most parenting classes. The parenting classes, well, the majority of our cases, we have over 2,500 families that are referred to us via DSS, a majority of them, have had, most of the time, 3 or 4 entries into DSS prior to coming to us. Now, what we've been able to research and so far is that we've had no reentries with the families that we've worked with since coming to us. And I believe it's because we do the mutual support piece and the peer support. Just so you know, I originally was a parent in the program myself. I started off as a parent in the program, became a facilitator in the Low Country, became a trainer, became a regional coordinator, and today I'm the program training and resource director of Family Corps. So our whole philosophy is that we can strengthen these parents and these families and turn them into parent advocates or peer support for other families coming through the DSS system. There's been a consistency. I'm in every DSS office across the state doing presentations, trying to get them to recognize that we are their contract provider and that they pay us to provide the services to the families at no cost to the families. So I go in there to make the presentations to get them to refer to us. And when I go into the DSS offices, they're different. Every office is different. Their process is different. We hear them, and for me being a program director, I often will ask them, what can I do different, or what can our organization do different to provide services to you as a provider, such as communication? Well, they all want different pieces. Some want more detail, some want less detail. Some just want a quick email that says, hey, they've completed. So consistency is a big issue for us. We do have great relationships with the DSS offices and the caseworkers. We constantly communicate with them. Part of what we want to do is change the outlook or the attitude or belief that they have of the family when they refer them to us. We want them to see the positive change and change how they feel and how they approach them. Family engagement is very, very important. We notice a lot of times the families come in and they feel very judged. What we've heard across board from every parent across the state that we've dealt with is that's not what was said. At that initial investigation when they came out to our home, that's not what I said. That's not what happened, but that's not what gets presented to the judge at the merits hearing. One of the things I'd like to do, and because we take these parents and turn them into peer providers or turn them into parent advocates, I'd like to see DSS at some point maybe add a piece where, because we have the capacity, right? We have 2,500 families that we work with. Add a piece that when the investigators go out to the home, have a parent advocate go with them at the initial investigation. So there's somebody there for that parent who's scared to death that there's this person here, judging me, getting ready to take my kids, changing my words around. Whether that's happening or not, I don't know. I'm not there. But somebody there for the parent and a neutral party. I think it would make it much more friendly, and I think the parents would be much more engaged when they move on to the next process. That same parent advocate or parent support provider can go with them to their family group conferences, which, by the way, we are providing parent advocates to those conferences now, and DSS has been very good at referring to us for that process. They could go with them to those family group conferences. They have somebody there that will help get their voice heard, somebody there who's there for them, somebody who will help them identify other supports that they have that they may not automatically recognize to invite to that process. They can go with them to IEP meetings. They can go with them to court hearings. Wherever the parent may or may not be falling short, that parent advocate will be there for them to help them. Now, the parent advocates come from the classes. And today we have a couple parent advocates with us who actually had DSS cases at one time or another, and are now, have grown and are moving on and helping other families coming through the system. So that's one thing I'd like to see happen. The other thing I'd like to see happen is more, I would say, more training when these children are going into relative placement. We hear over and over again, and we see it. I mean, we work directly with these families that, now my sister wants to keep my kids. And now the sister is no longer coming to the parenting education and support class and supporting their sister to get better and make change to get their kids back. But now they're telling the kids, don't you want to stay with me? And they're kind of going against the whole process. I feel like there needs to be a training for relative placement. If you're going to take someone's children, you need to identify your role. And your role is to get those children ready to go back home, keep them healthy, happy, safe, and taken care of until they get back home with their mom and dad, and to support that family member in getting better and healthy and making the right moves and the right decision to become strengthened, to get their kids home, to keep them sustainable so that we have these strengthened families. And nobody's doing that training. Those families don't know their role. It quickly shifts. Next thing you know, they want to keep the kids, and then we have all these private cases right at the time of reunification with the families. All of a sudden, the family member who has the kids is going and doing a private action case for custody. This is happening every single day across the whole entire state of South Carolina. Our organization is able to do those trainings because we work with these families all the time. We are constantly creating trainings to get out there and make things better. And I think these are things that DSS needs to take into consideration. I realize that the whole idea of relative placement is to cut the costs of foster care and to keep the kids with somebody they know and to try to make it less traumatizing. But it becomes just as traumatizing when these children are now back and forth in this custody battle with their own family members. Thank you for listening.
You still have 3 minutes. You good?
I'm good.
Because I think we have some questions.
Sure.
Let me ask a question before Representative McLeod. Have you had a direct meeting with Director Alford or someone on her team? When was the last time you've done that?
I have not had a direct meeting with Director Alford, but I would love to. I do often speak with Pat Patrick from Families First.
Okay.
Because, we're part of that family group conferencing. But I would love to meet with Director Alford because I think that we have some really good ideas and the capacity to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony. You said you were from Charleston. Is the director of Parents Anonymous also located in Charleston?
The CEO?
Yeah.
Yes, is Lisa Potch-Kirchner, and she's also in Charleston. That's where our hub is.
Okay. And your two suggestions was that for the parent advocate to accompany, to be with the parent, starting at what point?
The investigative point. When they get that call and they make that first interaction at that home.
That's the first interview.
Mm-hmm. At the first interview. I mean, the parents are scared. You've got this person you don't know knocking on your door.
What is the pattern now? When does the parent advocate show up now?
Well, see, that's part of the inconsistency. Sometimes we don't get a referral until 18 months into a case, sometimes 6 months. We've asked to get the referrals. When they have that first family team meeting within 24 hours, we don't get them either. It's very inconsistent. We get them whenever they send them. So if we could get that parent advocate there at the very beginning, I think that it would change the whole process. It would change the outlook that the families have and the engagement piece as well.
And your second point is you urge more training for foster parents so that they would understand their true role.
Foster care and relative placement, absolutely.
And relatively. So
And
because
relative placement.
I think I heard you say there was a developing pattern of foster parents or relative placement seeking in a private action custody of the children.
Almost right before reunification. When the case is getting ready to come to a close and the caseworker has verbalized to relative placement that these kids are probably going to go home next week after court because everybody's on reunification as the recommendation, that foster family, well, not the foster family, but that relative placement will then go and file a private action complaint for custody of children that's not
Is
theirs.
that a developing pattern or it's already there?
It's already happening, and it's happening across the state. It's very active.
Okay, also you said Parents Anonymous is currently located in about 36 counties.
Yes, sir.
Have you had the opportunity to be a part of Lawrence County yet?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was recently at Lawrence County. I was in Chesterfield. I've been in almost every DSS office across the state. The one office I've been having a little bit of trouble with, I'm finally going in February. Yay. But we partner with several agencies. So
Ms. Mills, what office is that?
you really want me to say?
I mean, unless you don't want
Horry
to.
County has been the most difficult office for us to get into. However, they are having a provider day in February, and we're going to be able to go in there and present.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
So,
Well, you heard, as did I, some pretty tough comments about some activities within the purview of the Lawrence County DSS. I want to know, did you know any of that yourself? Are you acquainted with any of the things we heard today?
I am.
Well, lay it on us, please.
Because we work directly with the families, we hear every case. Sometimes the caseworkers will give us notes on the case. Most of the time, we get it from the families themselves. We try to be positive-based or strength-based, so we will inquire to the caseworker what's being told to us, and we try to be involved as much as possible. That's what I'm saying about the parent advocates. We try to go to all those meetings to make sure that when that, especially the young lady with the domestic violence, is trying to get her children back and she was a victim of something, when we speak to the caseworker, we try to change that image. We're going to say to that caseworker, well, in all honesty, she did call the police that morning, and at that point, somebody should have contacted the school to have the child taken to the hospital. Not to relieve the parent of her responsibility of it, but to show that she did make a call. So we do hear about all the counties. There are some cases that sometimes we'll bring to light. We'll go a step up and say, hey, this is bad. This shouldn't have happened. I can tell you we did recently have a case out of Berkeley County where they moved for a TPR. The parent was never offered a treatment plan. They moved for a TPR. When we went to the hearing, the judge turned it over. She had 2 weeks before the TPR date. Within 18 months is TPR. There's a statute that says that a TPR can be overturned if reunification can happen within 90 days, and the judge extended that, and court ordered a service to be done through us, and the Department of Child Welfare was supposed to bring the children to that program, and they didn't do it. So when we went back to court, they had to move forward with TPR. However, what the judge did was reorder it, and now when she goes for her permanent TPR hearing, DSS is bringing the child now. Now when she moves for a permanent hearing, it can get overturned. So stuff like that, it does happen. We try to teach the parents that they still have to actively see what role they played in it and take accountability and not point the finger at whatever role DSS had, because it's too late for that. You're in the system now. So what do you got to do to get your kids back, get them home, sustain them, and not have another reentry into DSS? So we try to steer away from that as much as possible, but we do hear about it.
Well, one other question. I would like your wisdom and insight here. This is a volatile subject, and what we read in the press is where some state agency, or DS in this instance, didn't take adequate steps to protect someone of tender years or a vulnerable adult. What I hear about is where there's a certain amount of overkill because of the allegations made are overreacted to, and about which no reason can be. In other words, no reason can intervene. In other words, they overkill based on the flimsiness of allegations. Have you heard that?
I have. Across the state, a lot of our families have had children removed because of a lack of a resource, because of an allegation, or because of an investigation of a child that got hurt that didn't get removed when they should have. Now they're removing some of the children for things that possibly could be considered preservation and keeping the children in the home and maybe helping the family with the resources that they need to sustain that. We have a lot of children in care in the Low Country because the house wasn't clean. It wasn't inhabitable. It just wasn't clean to the standards of the caseworker that went into the home. Or, I don't know, maybe they didn't have electricity. Well, they put the children in care. What I think should happen is help that family learn how to locate those concrete supports and utilize the resources to get that electricity put on. And then help mom find some kind of job to maintain being able to keep the electricity on. Like, putting a child into care is more traumatizing than it would be just to teach that family how to maintain that. It's happening often. So it's a little bit of the overkill. A lot of kids are in care that probably shouldn't be in care, or in relative placement that may not need to be in relative placement because of something more minor. Granted, they look at that and say it's neglect, but is it truly a neglect or abuse, or is it a lack of a resource that maybe we need to teach those families how to reach out and find? When we teach concrete supports in the parenting education, I can't tell you how many people have never heard of 211 in the state of South Carolina. You guys have billboards that say 211, and yet these families don't know that they can call 211 and find where they can get utility assistance. It's kind of sad.
Well, thank you for helping me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Mills, I think Representative Taylor has another question, if you could help us.
It's actually not, Ms. Mills, thank you very much for your testimony. Not a question, but a comment. Gosh, you make common sense.
Well, thank you.
And we need a huge dose of that in our society overall, number one, and certainly in state government and delivering services. You're just refreshing to hear. Thank you. You kind of talk like we talk at home,
Yes,
like,
sir.
get a grip, get a life. Here, let's fix this. Let's use common sense. Let's listen to people.
Right.
And I remind you, and to our audience too, all of us up here, we're representatives. We don't work for state government. Yeah, they give us a little money, dang little, but we don't really work for state government. We work for real people. We work for all of you out there. And I tell folks all the time when I get these calls, and we get them a lot, half of our job is sort of below, I call it below the waterline. Nobody ever sees it. And it's all the constituent service that we do. We don't talk about it because, it's that individual case thing, whether it's a DSS issue or a pothole or you name it. I mean, it runs the gambit of things. But we're your ombudsman. And this committee is your ombudsman. I mean, that's, Sometimes I explain to people what that means. That means, we're here to represent you, to help and try to figure out the best way to work. And that's what this committee is all about. So anyway, I just really wanted to say thank you. Thanks for your helping of common sense. Should we all benefit from that all the time? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Bill.